What do each of the letters stand for in the respond model? Report, evaluate, stabilize, preserve, organize, normalize, document, and debrief. What are the three main components of disturbance resolution? Approach considerations, intervention options, and follow-through considerations. What are the three parts to approach considerations? Decision making, tactical deployment, tactical evaluation. What are the two parts of decision making? Justification and desirability. What are the four parts to tactical deployment? Control of distance, relative positioning with multiple subjects, team tactics. What are the four parts to tactical evaluation? Threat assessment opportunities, officer-subject factors, special circumstances, level, stage, degree of stabilization. What are the 5 key rules for use of force? The purpose is control. Escalation does not need to follow step by step through intervention options. You can always disengage and/or escalate. Once control is achieved, you must reduce the level of force to that needed to maintain control. You must always maintain a position of advantage. What is control? Control is a perception based on an officer's training, experience, and the fact situation. Control is not a 50-50 proposition. Proper police action balances what two things? It balances safety and efficiency. What are the 5 parts of threat assessment opportunities? Level of resistive tension, early warning signs, pre-attack postures, indications of mental illness, emotional disturbance or medically significant behavior, and weapon control factors. What is the definition of resistive tension? Agitation in a person's body. What is the definition of an early warning sign? Signals or certain behaviors provided by the subject that are often associated with a high level of danger to officers. What are the 5 early warning signs? Conspicuously ignoring, excessive emotional attention, exaggerated movement, ceases all movement, known violent history. What is the definition of pre-attack posture? Behaviors that may indicate imminent danger of physical assault. What are the 5 pre-attack postures? 1,000-yard stare, target glance, shoulder shift, hand set, boxer stance. What are the 5 officer-subject factors? Numbers, age, size, relative strength, and skill level. What is the definition of special circumstances? Factors or situation that may justify rapid escalation of force or selection of higher force options. What are the 9 special circumstances? Reasonable perception of threat, special knowledge of subject, sudden assault, subject's ability to escalate force rapidly, your physical positioning, injury or exhaustion, equipment or training, availability of backup, or other special circumstances. What are the 5 modes within intervention options? Presence, dialogue, control alternatives, protective alternatives, and deadly force. What are the 3 stances within presence mode? Open stance, ready stance, defensive stance. What are the 4 types of dialogue? Search talk, persuasion, light control talk, and heavy control talk. What is the purpose of control alternatives? To overcome passive resistance, active resistance, or their threats. What is passive resistance? Non-threatening and non-compliant behavior. What is active resistance? Behavior which physically counteracts an officer's control efforts and which creates risk of bodily harm to the officer, subject, and/or other person. What are the 4 tactics and tools under control alternatives? Escort holds, to safely initiate contact; compliance holds, to overcome passive resistance; control devices, OC and ECD, to overcome active resistance or its threat; passive countermeasures, to decentralize. What is the purpose of protective alternatives? To overcome continued resistance, assaultive behavior, or their threats. What is continued resistance? Maintaining a level of counteractive behavior that is not controlled by an officer's current efforts. What is assaultive behavior? Direct actions or conduct that generate bodily harm. What are the 3 tactics and tools under protective alternatives? Active countermeasures, to create dysfunction; incapacitating techniques, to cause immediate temporary cessation of violent behavior; and intermediate weapons, to impede. What is the purpose of deadly force? To stop the threat. What is the definition of deadly force? The intentional use of a firearm or other instrument that creates a high probability of death or great bodily harm. What is the justification for the use of deadly force? Behavior which has caused or imminently threatens to cause death or great bodily harm to you or another person or persons. What are the 3 criteria that a suspect must meet to be considered an imminent threat requiring a deadly force response? Intent, a weapon, and a delivery system. What is the unarmed danger zone? Less than 10 feet. What is the club or edge weapon danger zone? Any distance where the officer reasonably perceives an imminent threat of death or great bodily harm. What is the firearm danger zone? In the line of sight, unbroken by cover. What are the 3 target requirements? Acquisition, the process of locating your adversary; identification, the process of recognizing the subject as the adversary, placing you or others in imminent danger; and isolation, the process of separating the subject from innocent persons. What is the exception to target isolation? The greater danger exception. Shooting without target isolation if the consequence of not stopping the threat would be worse than the possibility of hitting an innocent person. What is the definition of preclusion? The officer reasonably believes all other options have been exhausted or would be ineffective.